Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Secure Health and Medical Technology webinar. I'm Jessalyn, I'm with Hackster, and I'm very excited to introduce our speakers today, Martin Smith from Microchip and Sam DiMatteo from Marcus Engineering. So Martin is a Principal Medical and Health Segment Manager for the Americas at Microchip Technology. He has more than 30 years of experience in semiconductor and systems engineering, as well as marketing and business development. And he's been leading business and technology efforts at Microchip to better serve medical device companies. And from Marcus Engineering, we have Sam DiMatteo. He is an electrical engineer for Marcus Engineering with a background in electrical design and embedded firmware development, as well as a background with regulatory compliance and documentation and a biomedical engineering degree from the University of Arizona. So please help me welcome our two awesome speakers.
Thank you, Jessalyn. So go ahead, and I think Sam would like to talk about Marcus Engineering, and then I'll take over for a little bit after that.
Yep. Quick introduction for Marcus Engineering. We are an electronics-focused product development and prototyping organization with expertise in not only the medical field, but also other highly regulated industries such as military and aerospace. We are one of 20 premier design partners with Microchip and one of 7 medical device specialists worldwide. And we're also a preferred regional resource with Avnet. So I'll hand it back over to Martin.
Thanks. Many of you may know about Microchip Technology. We're located in Chandler, Arizona. This is a few little tidbits about it. We're founded back in 1989, and we've got all the employees it shows, our product offerings, revenue. So a little bit of just an idea of kind of where we're at and what our history is briefly. We are involved in a lot of different markets. Obviously, we're talking about medical today, but we've been involved in pretty much every market segment you can think of as far as having products available and expertise in helping our customers. Specifically on the medical end of it, we've been involved for many years in supplying parts and supporting our medical clients. Like I said, the company was founded in 1989, but since that time, we've been involved in any given year, a few thousand medical customers every year as far as these types of technologies and medical devices. Whether it's anything from implantable, portable, wearable, clinic, hospital-based type of technology, we've been involved. And this list is just actually a partial list of some of the designs that are right now in design or in process right now, or actually in production. One of the things we like to tell people about Microchip and medical is we've got a bit of a pedigree since we've been doing it for so long. It's been a continuous effort in medical, especially since about 2006. We've had dedicated medical experts with the company to help with our medical clients and support them. Now we can and will engage with every type of medical client. We support all FDA, MDR classes, and that includes class 3 when you talk about life support, life critical medical devices. We support that. So we're a little unique in that area. And we do so with no real extra, cost or anything else. It's just what we do. It's our business, it's our quality, and that's what we've been doing for a long time. For medical device designers in particular, it's good to know that we have an unmatched long-term support policy. Basically, what we engage to do basically is to, as long as the customer is buying the parts, we will continue to support them. We've got devices and medical designs that are 20-year-old parts. Due to FDA and some other things, they wanted to go ahead and freeze those designs. And so if our customers wanted to freeze the designs, so we continue to make those products for them. Obviously, our technologies and our processes and our functionality have moved on, but we've locked in those parts for those customers to continue in making products for their particular devices. So that's a lot of things going on there. Let's kind of shift gears a little bit from about Microchip and talk a little bit about some of the things I mentioned briefly in the video last fall, I guess it was. I did kind of promoting this webinar. Is why do we need medical device technology? It seems like an obvious question because everybody needs medical assistance and medical health care, but it's been a challenge in some respects to do that. But as you can see, everybody needs healthcare in one form or another. There are a lot of things changing where governments and charitable organizations, corporations are getting involved more and more to supply healthcare out to everyone in the world as a goal, ultimately, as a humanitarian effort. And this, of course, is driving up the demand for any kind of medical devices that are out there. And as far as not only the amount, but the technology, is it connected and secure? And we'll talk about that in a minute. But and then you can see medical, of course, does all these cool things about alleviating, illnesses and pain and mitigating diseases, keeping people alive, and also as well as their good quality of life. So, I like to always say it brings hope and health. One of the things I've mentioned before to many people is the fact that, if we're concerned about sustainability of the planet, first thing to do is consider the sustainability of the human beings that live on the planet. If our human beings are healthy, all of us are healthy, we're more likely to do our efforts in sustaining the planet. Some of the more market or business-driven aspects of what's going on with this is because of the disruptions, all of the demand for healthcare. It was starting before COVID, but a lot got accelerated by COVID. And many people think that it's not happening so much anymore because we're in the pre-pandemic era. But it just really accelerated the adoption of newer technologies with medical devices and the demands on medical devices, the amount as well as the quality and the features involved. Many of those devices I mentioned are becoming more smarter, edge-centric. It's interesting, a few years ago, when we were looking at how this market is growing, we were seeing a 29% growth rate, which is kind of unheard of in most markets. And usually they kind of settle out over time as you look at it. But in 3 years, that demand's gone up from 29% to estimated 37% as far as the growth rate in the market, as far as the demand for these types of products. So it doesn't seem to be going away. There seems to be more demand, and it kind of makes sense both as a business aspect as well as a humanitarian aspect. So medical device makers continue to develop new medical devices. It's important to do that, and that's why a lot of people are interested in it, as well as a lot of different companies are upping their game and doing that. We use a lot of terms like telehealth, and so basically that's where the patient and the doctor are not physically located next to each other. It's also called things like telemedicine, remote patient monitoring, Internet of Medical Things, smart medical, and things like that. It's known by a lot of names. They're used synonymously, but it's a big deal as far as if you can't always get the patient to the doctor, that the patient still gets the quality of healthcare they need. So those kind of devices, there's a lot of different devices that tend to be connected and supply that kind of healthcare to different people. But the typical ones we see and we're familiar with probably be things like a thermometer, a blood pressure meter, a pulse oximeter, which measures simple heart rate and blood oxygen level, or ECG or EKG to look at cardiac health. Different devices that we usually see them in the clinic or the hospital or the doctor's office. Well, more and more, we'll see them in smaller clinics and the data be sent, the patient vital signs and other data be sent to a larger clinic in another location or a large hospital. So because of all of that demand and what's happening, the questions become, how do I as a medical device designer, how does anybody as a medical device designer meet those demands? You got all these things with remote monitoring I mentioned before. How do I not only measure the vital signs, how do I, transmit them? How do I do that securely? And that's an important part. A little problem with our slides here. There we go. Okay. So how do I do that as when I'm trying to design medical things? And how do I start? What's the development platform? Well, one of them, we're talking about today is this design, but with it, not only securely measuring, and transmitting the data, but can I do that? Can I do that with a small single board solution? Is it available to test other sensors out besides the ones that are on the board? And how do I meet the cybersecurity guidance that the FDA came out with a few years ago? Well, we do this with the Secure Telehealth Reference Design Board. This is one of the reference designs that Microchip has and that we just recently developed, and we want to talk about a little bit more today. This is one version of the block diagram, just to give you an idea. Sam will go into more detail on the components of the block diagram, but the basic idea is the different microchip parts and other parts that are medical grade in order to do all the things I talked about. How do we transfer the data? How do we securely get it to the cloud? As well as how do we just measure it in the board, measure it on the board. And also the clipboard interface you see there, which is another way to say I can use other sensors to do the same thing, is to measure data on sensors on the clipboard and then transmit it and securely and get it to where I need it to go, the cloud in particular, which is where we see a lot of designs going. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sam for a more technical dive into this board.
Thank you, Martin. So I'm Going to jump right in. You can see here the system architecture diagram of this system that we're talking about here today, and kind of broken down into a couple of the main sections. And I'll go into deeper depth about most of these components as well. So we'll jump right into it. Starting off here, you can see the MCU BLE chip on module. This is the WBZ350PE. Some of the really important design considerations that went into selecting and using this component as the brains of this board are that it uses a ARM Cortex M4 core. It has not only Bluetooth low energy capabilities, but it also has Zigbee capabilities as well. It has FCC certification, among many other certifications from different nations around the world. And it also has 2 configurable SERCOMs, which are serial communication buses that allow users to use I2C, UART, or SPI for whatever sensors that they want to use. Microchip also provides a great variety of different breakout boards and curiosity boards or reference designs to help in the development process, not only of this board, but of different customer devices in the future. And this includes a curiosity board that is centered around this WBZ350. And then they also provide a breakout board for the next component that we'll talk next component after these power regulators. Microchip provides a wide variety of components from microprocessors to fully built multi-protocol modules such as the WBZ350, but it also provides different voltage regulators such as the boost regulators you see here and the LDOs. These were used specifically in this device, and it provides some connectivity of all the different components. You have one place to go to for any assistance and for getting your components. So moving on to the different I2C devices that are found on this board. We'll first talk about this secure element. It is a crypto coprocessor that has secure hardware-based key storage with storage for up to 16 different keys, certificates, or other data. It has hardware support for asymmetric and symmetric crypto features, such as the ones that you see in this list here over on the right. And it also has a unique 72-bit serial number. Each one has their own, which can be used in the firmware and software for different security purposes moving forward. And as I mentioned before, this also has a nice breakout board that can be used for development processes to be able to test out and use this in that development process throughout. Moving on to the medical grade components that are used on this board. We first have the AS7057A, which is a medical grade heart rate and blood oxygen saturation sensor. It provides access to multiple different measurements, such as pulse transmit time and photoplethysmography, PPG. And through that PPG, you can also gather proximity information, which helps with power considerations. This A-series chip with the suffix of A also includes a very useful binary library that you can help to calculate SpO2 and heart rate. This is yet again an I2C communication device, so it's on the same bus as that secure element, which allows for some simplicity of the electrical hardware design, which is nice.
And Sam, if I can break in just real quick, just to mention, this is, this part of the next part you're going to show are from our partners, AMS OSRAM, who we worked with and done a great job as far as working with us to put these parts onto the board and the design that you did. So we appreciate what they've done there. Thanks.
Definitely. So some important design considerations that went into the design of the system that's run by this analog front end are the LED and photodiode layout that you can see here in this image. It was designed to ensure higher accuracy for both the heart rate and SpO2 measurements using the recommended photodiodes and LEDs that are also supplied by AMS OSRAM. AMS OSRAM also supplies dev boards for this specific analog front end, with these LEDs with a very useful built-in software to help develop the measurement profile that we ended up using for this board. The next component is the medical grade thermometer sensor, which is the AS6221. It is a silicon bandgap contact temperature sensor, which has very low power consumption and is very highly accurate. Very important for medical grade sensors. Yet again, I2C communication device, so it's on the same bus as the secure element and the analog front end pulse oximeter sensor. Some important design considerations that went into this for using it on the board were ensuring that it was thermally isolated from the rest of the board. As you can see in this second image, it has some cutouts around the sensor, as well as placing the sensor correctly so that we get the best contact with the skin that we are trying to measure the temperature of. And this is done by placing it on the underside of the board and connecting it to a copper pad with vias. The next component is a high performance accelerometer that is able to integrate in with the analog front end pulse oximeter chip to reduce different motion artifacts in the SpO2 and heart rate data that is collected. And going on to one of the really nice developmental features of the board is it has a clipboard header as well as the configurable SIRCOMs that I mentioned before. This is really useful for development because it allows for users to easily add in any additional sensors or other chips that have one of 3 different serial communication methods, whether that's SPI, more I2C, or UART. And you can utilize the security and Bluetooth capabilities that are already built into this board to continue building up a different sensor easily. The SIRCOM is set up in a way so that we have 3 different sets of jumpers that can be connected or disconnected easily to change between those 3 serial communications. And the serial communication, as you can see on the right, is set up in Microchip's MPLAB X IDE using the Microchip connectivity or Microchip code configurator to create the drivers for those different serial communication buses. So now taking a look at the firmware side of things, you can see here on the left a block diagram of the main application that is running on this board. It utilizes free RTOS for some initialization tasks and then service tasks. The service tasks connect to 2 custom drivers built specifically for communicating with the temperature sensor and pulse oximeter front end for this board. And then we have additional Bluetooth and the serial communication drivers that are built by the Microchip code configurator in that IDE, specifically for the WBZ350, which is very beneficial for quick prototyping and changing things around. Currently, the second SIRCOM connected to the clipboard is configured as a UART port to be able to get some debugging information out, which is a nice beneficial addition to have. So moving forward to talk about some of the FDA documentation that Martin alluded to earlier, if a medical device contains any sort of software or firmware, it will most likely require cybersecurity documentation. This can affect the development process based on 3 main components, which are connectivity, software complexity, and device risk. So jumping right into connectivity, as you can see here, as the device gets more connected to networks or external sources, the risk increases, which also means the requirement for cybersecurity testing and mitigations for different risks increases as well. This means more work must be done during the process to ensure safety and security as your device is more connected to the network and systems around it. Similar to software complexity, as the software and firmware of the device become more complex or includes additional third-party software, the risk and requirement increases as well, meaning more work and development must be done to ensure that safety and security side of the device. And again, similar to device risk, for class 1 devices, low risk devices, the cybersecurity requirements are definitely less than class 2 or class 3 devices that have more requirements for safety and efficacy, as they are potentially life required, for such as like a pulse oximeter sensor for measuring heart rate, or SpO2, or a pacemaker such as the one you see here. So why does any of that matter? Cybersecurity is a specialist activity. It requires a unique set of skills that not every software engineer will have. Software engineers are not cybersecurity engineers. They are not able to think of all the risks and hazards that may arise as you're developing your device. You wouldn't ask a software engineer to do biocompatibility for a medical device. So you need to find someone who has the specialty and the expertise in this area to complete those that documentation. So kind of taking a look at this process, a brief overview. This begins well before the development of the device and continues throughout development and throughout the life cycle of the product while in sale. You can see here, prior to development, you need to establish a process for that cybersecurity compliance. And then during development, you have to get the risks and hazards assessed, and design a secure system architecture that mitigates those risks and hazards, and document all of the evidence of that security and safety, including a lot of testing throughout the process. And then once the device has been approved by the FDA, you also have to keep an eye on security during the product lifestyle, such as if there are different security issues found with third-party software. You have to ensure that you are keeping an eye on that as the product is in its life cycle. Marcus Engineering and Microchip have worked together to provide example FDA documentation. You can see here a list of all the different documentation that is provided for this specific board, for the specific reference design, and can help with the process of starting to create cybersecurity and different software and firmware documentation moving forward. So I will hand it back off to Martin now to talk a little bit about the IoT Connect side of things.
Thanks, Sam. So one of the last pieces, if we've talked about the board itself, and again, the model would look something like a patient or technician with the patient would have the design based on this board, utilizing that. It gets encrypted, the data gets encrypted and sent over to a cloud-based infrastructure, and over eventually to the hospital clinic or to a doctor's office. And so what we're doing is putting this, we're putting together with Avnet IoT Connect, the IoT Connect infrastructure, and it's be ported to this board to utilize that. And the nice thing about IoT Connect is that it's really scalable. It goes from single user to whole enterprise size grade kind of thing, with hundreds of thousands of users, millions, maybe millions of devices. And basically it's set up to have us either be set up for Microsoft Azure or AWS. Some of the problems or challenges that most people see when they're trying to implement this is that one person can't do it all. If you've got a small shop or even a big shop, as Sam had mentioned, you've got maybe have a lot of software engineers. You obviously don't have security engineers, and many times you don't have basically edge and IoT and cloud engineering capabilities or resources in your company or what you're trying to do. And so basically there's three areas that show up as skill gaps, and IoT Connect is trying to address. One of them is skill gaps. You need hardware designers, you need software designers, you need cloud-based designers, you need the user interface designers, and having a team that covers all of those things usually is not part of most organizations. Another thing is just managing the cost and sustainability. If you try and build your own or kind of go piecemeal, you're still pieces you got to miss and money, development money that has to be used, and trying to put that all together. So another challenge that has to do. And finally, scaling and control. It's in some respects, it can be easier to prototype it, but once you want to scale it up to a production level system and get everything up and running, that can be a challenge also. So what IoT connects basically is a lot of different features and functions, and the ability to choose between AWS and Azure is actually kind of important. And again, that'll be based on a lot of different things in your organization. One is just your existing systems and integration. Which cloud aligns better with your current infrastructure and what you're trying to accomplish. Or do you want to move from one to the other? If you're already sitting on one and like to move to the other, that's an important consideration too. What features are native to either one, either to Azure or AWS? What do you care about? And finally, just overall business, metrics and preferences that you've got as far as past history and traditions, and your people you've got, your management, if they have experience with certain cloud infrastructures. And so overall, it's flexible, it's scalable, and it's something that's really important to keep in mind. Now, having partnered with them, with IoT Connect, we've developed several different, what we call quick connect basic kind of boards. These are ones that are already set up. You got different functions. In this case, you've got Microchip development boards that are either for testing out Wi-Fi, for cellular, so you're looking again at remote monitoring and that kind of model as far as your healthcare development and delivery. And we've got one for the SAMI54, which is the 32-bit ARM Cortex MCU, as well as for a 32-bit MCU if you're bumping it up and going into bigger applications, utilizing an operating system or something like that. So then these are already, the functions are already there. They're already enabled with IoT Connect. And you can get a trial IoT Connect account. And so basically all you got to do is once you purchase the board, get set up on the account, and basically within, usually a matter of minutes, you can have at least a development prototype set up. And then moving forward with other boards, including like our secure telehealth board, that'll be another one that'll be connected, and you have the ability to set up and move forward with that. So again, speaking of the boards, for our secure telehealth reference design board, I'm going to turn it back over to Sam to show the board in action. Do you want to go ahead, Sam?
Yep. So I will switch my camera over. As you can see here, we have the board and a phone set up. When turning on the board, you can see we have a UI LED that blinks slowly. That's basically saying it's ready to connect via Bluetooth to a device. When connecting via Bluetooth, you can see here that UI LED starts blinking quite a bit faster, and the LEDs up here for the pulse oximeter turn on. As you can see, no data is being sent across via that Bluetooth link currently because there is not a finger placed on that sensor. There is, as I mentioned before, a proximity sensor that is one of the features of this pulse oximeter analog front-end chip. And using that, it can detect when a finger is placed on that LED and those photodiodes. So you can see here, when I pinch the board, data starts being sent across the Bluetooth link. And as you can see, the temperature is rising. My fingers are very cold in the morning, and that temperature varies throughout the day quite a bit. So you can see here that temperature is quite a bit lower. And then my SpO2 and heart rate show up when the quality of those measurements increases to a certain point. You can see here my heart rate is a little higher. So that is a accurate measurement. We've done quite a bit of testing and comparisons to standard SpO2 and heart rate finger measurement sensors as well. And then you can see here when I let go of the device, that data will be cleared out and no data will continue being sent, so that no false data is sent across that. So showing off a couple of the features of the board that I talked about earlier, you can see down here on the left side, this is that clipboard header where additional sensors can be added in and developed using the framework of this device that's already set up, and that information gathered from those sensors can be sent across that Bluetooth link that's already set up with this board. You can see here and the two sets of jumpers up there. That is how you can configure the different different serial bus to be whatever this clipboard sensor requires. You can see here in the center, we have our 3 photodiodes and 1 LED set up for that pulse oximetry. And then we have our accelerometer for motion artifacts. And up at the top is that WBZ Bluetooth module that's all packaged in there. And then on the back side here, you can see right above the battery is the temperature sensor chip, which is connected through vias to this pad here. One of the nice features for development in this board is that it is currently being powered by a AAA battery, but we also have the option to power it via some headers on the board with a power supply during development, so that it doesn't have to be sitting with a AAA battery. It can be powered via a power supply. So that is the board, and I can show off again, holding it, and data starts pouring in, and you can see here a quality score as the quality increases of the data that we are gathering. That quality score increases, and through testing we found that when it hits about 80, the quality of that data is highly accurate, and that's when we start sending it out via that Bluetooth link, and you can see it shows back up here, and you have your SpO2, heart rate, and that temperature showing up on the board, and then as soon as I let go, that data stops sending, so that we're not sending data that is not being gathered correctly. And that is the board. I don't think, Martin, I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to say while I've got the board up and running.
Yeah, just no, briefly. This is, we've found this has been quite an interesting project. We've done a lot in medical before, and this one though addresses so many of the needs we talked about earlier, as far as you've got right off the bat, you've got something that will do measurements, medical, typical vital signs measurements. We've got the ECC 608C device we put on there for security purposes to meet cybersecurity guidance requirements. You've got the cloud partnership with IoT Connect. So you've got a good package here overall as far as development, as far as any kind of telehealth remote monitoring device, and the clipboard interface to put on their sensors. So, no matter what kind you're going to do, there's something on this board that can probably help out as far as your medical device development, as far as vital signs and connected health, basically. So, yeah, we're pretty excited about this one. So thanks. That's all I got. Jesselyn?
Hey. Yeah, so I mentioned the chat, but if anyone has any questions, feel free to add it to the Q&A, but we do have a few questions in there that I will go through. So is this the only medical reference design that Microchip has, or do you have other reference designs?
Oh, okay. Well, good question. No, we have a lot. We've been working on this over the years, and we put together a lot in areas like vital signs measurement, when you talk about pulse oximeters, ECG, blood pressure meter, thermometer, a lot of different areas like that, as well as also got designs in what we'll call drug delivery and connected drug delivery, whether it has to do with moving bodily fluids and liquids with MEMS pumps, syringe pumps for medication delivery, nebulizers. We have some interesting things as far as nebulizers, is showing off how to do it in a very small and cost-effective way for patient compliance. And there's much more in the works we're doing all the time. So that's one of the things we do as a company, is continue to develop medical reference designs, either standalone boards or in conjunction with development systems, as far as things you can utilize in developing your medical devices. And I can do that. And if you want more information, you go to microchip.com/medical, and you can find the area on reference designs, and you can go look at those and look at all the different ones that are that they're available. You can download the files like the apps note, the PDF schematic, as well as the firmware for a lot of those designs, so you can get an idea how to start something like that.
And you mentioned, are those example FDA documents available as well?
Not at this time. We'll be making that available when this board goes up on its own webpage. So, and then we'll work out something. I know we talked, Jesslyn, about trying to put together something for Hackster to have it available also.
Awesome. And sort of related to that, the healthcare as a whole has a lot of regulation. So how does Microchip and Marcus Engineering help designers with the increasing requirements for medical device cybersecurity?
Okay, I'll jump that one first, and then Sam can address the other part. Again, understanding cybersecurity issues. Many of you may know, if you're involved in the field, that October 2023, the FDA finalized and started enforcing a cybersecurity guidance document, and they've been doing a lot more as far as what types of designs. They're emphasizing more on software quality and software security, as well as they had hardware security as far as initial aspects. So there's a lot involved with that. And so as a company, and definitely in a medical segment area, we are definitely working as far as our secure products, as far as meeting those needs, as far as whether it be something that's a standard. I mean, we got standard product that obviously interfaces like our connectivity products with AES protocols. We've also got in additional security measures of interest that you can utilize for end-to-end encryption, as far as maybe very highly secure areas, as far as medical, as well as other areas in secure communications. And it's just an important fact as far as, we've got our field as well as our factory applications support at Microchip. As far as having to do that, we've got actually about, 25 years worth of security expertise as over the year, over that time, as far as developing the product, whether it be a standalone product that works in almost any design, or utilizing integrated security in our microcontrollers and microprocessors, our FPGAs, and as well as the tools, the development. There's a lot that we offer and can help and support in. And then Sam, you want to go ahead and talk about it on your end?
Definitely. So Marcus Engineering, as I said, is deeply focused in highly regulated fields such as the medical device field. We have years of experience and success not only in the medical device field, but also in the security side of things as well. Expertise in those two fields together put us in a really unique position to help assist in developing systems that not only meet but also maintain compliance with the increasing cybersecurity standards that will continue increasing in the future.
Very cool. Another question we have here is, do you have recommendations for what type of communication protocol is the most affordable for medical devices on the edge?
Affordable. That's an interesting question. I'll kind of put that in two parts. Affordable basically would mean how you're going to scale it, as far as what types of parts. What we see mostly in medical, especially in this fast-growing area that I talked about, as far as remote monitoring and such, and telehealth, we'll see basically Bluetooth and Wi-Fi in many cases. And so, the typical model is something like Sam was showing here, where you've got a medical device and it's used remotely. It may go to a phone or a tablet or some other, over Bluetooth, and then the phone will take it and go Wi-Fi out to the cloud infrastructure, or, other places. Or it could be directly, we have boards that have Wi-Fi directly on them, or we have reference boards with Wi-Fi, but we sell parts, Wi-Fi modules and chips, and utilizing that to go to, again, a medical hub or infrastructure within a hospital or a clinic. And so, we see other things. We'll see cellular, in some of the rural areas because of that infrastructure. A little bit, somewhat. You'll see CAN bus has been around in high-end, medical devices in the hospital. Wired connectivity. Ethernet obviously is big in hospitals and such. And so we, as a company, we address all of those as far as parts for those. But as far as the biggest thing in this area, as far as telehealth, remote monitoring, we're seeing, and is the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And again, affordability has to do with features and what you're trying to accomplish. You can get down fairly inexpensive for simple functions, as far as simple connectivity, and then you can start expanding from there as far as things like the module we show here, where you've not only got the Bluetooth module, you've also integrated that with an ARM Cortex MCU to get that functionality and do the things you're trying to accomplish. And on a module, you got the PCB antenna, you got all the certifications from the different countries all over the world. So it depends on how you want to scale it.
Thank you. And you've mentioned microchips, microprocessors, and other components. Are they compliant with standards such as IEC 62304 or ISO 13485, or just in general, how does Microchip comply with medical standards as people want to develop devices?
Okay. Yeah, I'll take part of this, and maybe Sam will talk to his end too. But as far as Microchip, having had this pedigree and all these years in medical and doing that, we follow some automotive standards, IETF 6949, and those are rather stringent. But we found in making that selection as far as overall processes and manufacturing and design that we easily meet, say, ISO 13485 as far as the medical system standards. And so all of our processes, design, manufacturing, whatever, meet those standards. Examples is when we have our medical customers come in and audit our factories and our facilities, we always pass with flying colors, the audits meeting what they need for 13485. 62304 was brought up. That's an interesting one as far as software lifecycle, medical software lifecycle standards. 62304 kind of came from the industrial standard IEC 61508. And so in understanding a lot of that process, what we've done as a company is we have a functional safety compiler we offer for developing, for compiling C code for a lot of our MCUs and MPUs. And what that does is basically since 62304 is a life cycle standard, it's not a coding standard, but it has to do with, development, testing, maintenance, and areas like that. We've offered libraries in IEC 61508 for industrial, which fit a lot with medical applications. We've also got libraries for ISO 26262 for automotive, and IEC 60730, if I got that one right, for consumer. And so what we're seeing a lot of customers do is they will take, say, our functional safety compiler, and since it's IEC 62304 certified, it becomes part of their overall standards certification as far as part of how they're developing their code. They're using a certified compiler. Then they can also use libraries from our functional safety libraries. For example, IEC 61508 as far as handling safety critical functions from those libraries. And again, that would fit within that whole area of software quality and meeting the standards and help with FDA certification. And so basically, we've got a lot going as far as first of our quality and our tool sets and our experience as far as trying to support that and helping our customers with those issues. Sam, you want something from your side as far as designing along those lines?
Definitely add a little bit. When it comes to complying with regulatory requirements such as 62304 or 13485, it's not as much about choosing the correct, fully compliant piece of hardware or using the correct software, but it's instead really understanding and documenting the intended use of the parts and the involved risks with those parts. By characterizing the product risk, roughing out the system architecture, and characterizing the risks from that architecture, you can then build a mitigation plan to help reduce impact or likelihood of any of those risks that come from the product as a whole, as well as the different components that Microchip supplies. As Martin mentioned, Microchip is a really, really strong partner for medical device development. They are one of very few big semiconductor manufacturers that are actually supportive of medical device development, because a lot of others won't even really discuss the project with you, whereas Microchip is more than happy to help support that process throughout. And as Martin said, again, they have very high quality products and software tools that have been tested and certified for many years that allow customers to use that in their product and have the peace of mind that they're getting a very strong component in their system. And on the Marcus Engineering side, Marcus Engineering is available to assist with all aspects of the medical device development process. It's a very detailed and process-driven and challenging process, but it doesn't need to be overwhelming. Like any design, the proper understanding, background, and context are really critical to the smooth development process of making sure that you're compliant with standards such as those.
Yeah, and I will add one thing. Sam speaks from that experience in design, and that's kind of the perspective. Someone who's designing medical devices. It's good to delineate, certifications and things like that. Many of you who are involved with medical design know that as a medical device designer, you have the burden of suitability, which is the term the FDA uses, as far as do all my components, electronic or otherwise, will they be safe? Will they meet all the requirements, and can I certify with the FDA? And so they meet that suitability. And so as a company, Microchip, again, we're not saying you're not certifying any of the parts. The parts are not certified. That sometimes we get questions from people get a little confused, but the parts meet all the quality requirements and all the support and the quality data and the support and the features and everything we give to customers. We give them the information and support them and help them to do their suitability analysis so they can send along that for their FDA certs. Okay, I think that's it for that. Jessalyn, any others?
I think that about wraps up the Q&A we have. Before we wrap up this webinar, do either you or Sam have anything you'd like to add or let our audience know about before we say goodbye?
No, I appreciate, I appreciate Jessalyn and Hackster for giving us this forum to talk and show off our new reference design, as well as appreciate everybody taking the time to watch. So, I thank you for that, and hopefully everybody enjoys, and hopefully hear from you soon.
Thank you both, and thank you everyone for attending.